Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jeremy Sports Network coming to you live, and we're talking Austin Trout taking on Terrell Gausha. October the 14th. It's going down. Who is going to win this fight? It remains to be seen. The IBO will be on the line. The WBA 154-pound title will be on the line. And I'm looking forward to it. How's everybody doing on this morning? We back at you again. We're talking Erislandy Lara taking on Terrell Gausha. If I'm pronouncing the last name right, I'm not sure. But hey, we're talking about these fighters right here. And this is set to be perhaps one of the best fights of the evening, which we have really two good fights that we talked about earlier. And Jarrett Swift-Hurd taking on Austin Trout. Jermell Charlo taking on Erislandy. And Lara taking on this fight with Terrell Gausha. Now, those of you who are not familiar with who Gausha is, or Gausha, or Gausha, or Gausha is, it's funny because when you say that last name, you try to get it right. But if you're not familiar with who this guy is, he's 20-0, and he's had a really good career so far leading up to this point. He's a former Olympian, and this guy, he's out of Cleveland, Ohio, so he's a USA fighter. You know, he's an American fighter. He fights for the hometown, and he's a really good guy. You know what I mean? He's very humble. He's very mature, and he's fought some quality competition in order to get himself up to this point. Now, when you ask, well, who are some of the names that he faced that everybody may know, you don't have that guy on there. Maybe Steven Martinez, maybe he won that fight majority decision. Luis Hernandez was his last fight that he won in unanimous decision, which gave him this fight right here. But he faced some good quality opponents, I believe, that got him in a position to have in this fight and the mandatory for the WBA title. Now, is he going to win? That remains to be seen, because Lara, he's a really good opponent. Really, really good. And I know some of you believe that Lara defeated the guy who's most people are ranking #1 pound for pound since his fight with Triple G. And that is Saul Canelo Alvarez. A lot of people feel as though Lara won that fight against Saul Canelo Alvarez. If you ask me, Lara did win that fight, but I believe he was robbed. And but it's neither here or there, because outside of that loss to Saul Canelo Alvarez, he's been on a wonderful streak of himself as well. After he defeated Canelo, he went on to fight Ishe Smith of the Money Team, and he won that fight unanimous decision. Then he fought Devin Rodriguez, and he won that fight unanimous decision. And then Savic, everybody was wondering why did he take that fight with Savic. You know, that was for the IBO and the WBA fight title as well. But he was able to win that fight. And then he fought Yuri Foreman. And now, in Yuri Foreman fight, he knocked Yuri Foreman out. That to me really wasn't, you know, that we had that fight in January, but I don't think that was a fight that everybody was kind of hanging their hat on for Lara against Yuri Foreman, because everybody felt as though he was going to win that fight. I myself felt as though he was going to dominate that fight, and I believe you could go back and search through the videos and you'll see where I called that fight. But Lara, like I said, he's a really good guy, and this fight right here, I just don't know if this is going to set us up for perhaps a fight in the future for maybe a Demetrius Andre, who went up to 160. But I think he's testing himself at 160. But he can come back to fight Lara. And that's the fight that everybody's wanting. He's been the mandatory for the title. Has he had that opportunity to fight in this Lara yet? Absolutely not. Should we have that fight? Absolutely. If Demetrius Boo Boo Andre put on a wonderful performance, the same for Lara. If Lara put on a performance, everybody's going to be wondering when we're going to get that fight with Lara versus Demetrius Andre. And if we don't get that fight with him and Demetrius Andre, then you could talk about unifications maybe within the division with other fighters. Maybe that WBC champion out of Lubin and Charlo could be asking to unify. Maybe Jared Swift Hurd could be talking about unification once he defeats Austin Trout. Because that's who I'm picking to defeat Austin Trout. But we could be talking about unification with Indus Lara and him facing a guy who's worthy, who has a title in the division to where he can make it interesting. And we talked about earlier the depth in the division at super welterweight. We talked about the depth, right? We talked about also with Indus Lara, we talked about, you know, him winning against quality competition, like guys like we saw. If you go back and look at the Saul Canelo Alvarez fight and the movement from Indus Lara, it was a really close fight. Don't get me wrong. The fight was very, very close. But, I mean, come on. This guy's no pushover. He's 34 years old. He's up there in age. But it's time now that we want to see him face some of these young guns to where they can start unifying the division. And like I said, this whole entire weekend of fights that we have, just this night in particular on Saturday night, with what it is that we have in front of us, could dictate a lot as far as we move forward in that division. And it's going to be key for Indus Lara to put on a good performance, because he got some guys who's going to be really calling him out after this fight in particular. And some of those names will be the names of who we just talked about, who are going to be featured on the card. And we can't throw out Demetrius Andre because he's want this fight. He want this fight with everybody. Demetrius Andre, he want to fight everybody. Has he been inactive? Absolutely. He did win his title this year. Shouts out to Demetrius Boo Boo Andre on winning his title. Now signing to fight on HBO. Hey, things can start happening, you know, as far as next year is concerned, if we get a good showing on Lara's behalf, on Demetrius' behalf with his fight at 160, and then all these other fighters who are set to win come this weekend. The only one you could probably throw up, that'll be a toss-up, is Charlo and Lubin. That fight is a toss-up, if you ask me. I can't choose between the two because I like both fighters. And so I don't want to give a opinion on something and I'm being biased towards it. I want to give my opinion on what's facts. And what's facts is Charlo has the experience. Lubin lacked the experience with him being 21, but he has a deep amateur pedigree. And so he's faced some quality competition. Now, is it the same as facing Charlo? Absolutely not. But for Lubin's credit, hey, the guy can throw down. And I believe this is going to be a really good fight. Every single fight this weekend is going to be a good fight. And Indus Lara taking on Terrell. Shouts out to Terrell, man, because like I said, this guy, he's from Cleveland, Ohio. And Cleveland, right now, even though they lost in the NBA Finals to the Golden State Warriors, but the Cleveland Indians are on the road. And maybe that could be a little bit motivation for Terrell in this fight. Gausha in this fight could have motivation from those Cleveland Indians beating up on the New York Yankees, he can feel as though, hey, this can be an opportunity for me to make some noise and bring a world title, the IBO and the WBA, back to my hometown in Cleveland. There's an opportunity for him to get the upset. This is one of those fights where it could happen. And you heard it here first. This is Jeremy Sports Network. I'm signing out. You guys have a wonderful evening. I'm moving on to the next one. We will be back doing a full film study review on Chris Eubanks and his last fight, and what he did in that third round was phenomenal. But we'll be back to give you that live here on Jeremy Sports Network. This is Jeremy Sports Network. I'm signing out. Peace.